Welcome to the $1 Million Mortgage Experience podcast. Listen in as CEO Jon Maddux of FundLoans reveals tips, secrets, and origination ideas to fill your pipeline with $1 million opportunities.
Welcome to the show. This is the $1 Million Mortgage Experience. So it seems pretty natural that we're going to talk about $1 million, how to become a millionaire. So I guess there was what was it, John? It was a article that came out, CNBC, that said that half of millennials believe at some point in their life they're going to be millionaires. That's pretty optimistic, right? Like, since really like the 1% is a small amount of people, but it's true. I mean, you can become a millionaire if you really want to, and if you really try and you really work hard, and that's something that I think is very achievable for those who want it bad enough. I mean, some people can be happy with just, flip-flops, a surfboard, and a little camper, and they don't need to be a millionaire. So I'm not saying like they go out and be a millionaire, but what I am saying is that I became a millionaire at age 30. Of course, the crash happened after that and, lost a lot of stuff. But the truth is that you can do it with this method that I did. And I just want to kind of go over that and show people that it is achievable. And here's how I did it. You may want to do it differently, but, this is one way that you can do it if you want to be a millionaire. So think about it. And if that's something you want to have, but what's crazy these days is $1 million isn't even that much, especially in California. It doesn't buy you a whole lot, but, you could always, get to the millionaire status, sell everything, and then go live somewhere, much cheaper, like Nashville, Tennessee, which is going up as well. Okay, so the median wealth among millennials in 2016 was lower than the similar aged cohorts in any year from 1989 to 2007 when the Great Recession hit. But millennials, they're more educated. They have longer work lives. They have greater technological advances because they were born with the cell phone. Not born, but they were, young when you had, like, right? Do you remember not having a day that you didn't take a picture? Like
me personally, yes. No.
Yeah, but like people nowadays, they have to take pictures of their food and their, selfies and everything like that. So I would say, the technology is a huge help with distracting, right? So maybe that's why the millennials are behind a little bit, like my generation and things like that, as far as where they are with their income at the time. And also I think during the boom, right? There was a huge boom in real estate back when I was 30, where there was kind of a boom in real estate from 2010, 2012 when it crashed to now. So it's definitely come up, but not as much as when I was doing it. So, but that certainly doesn't mean you won't become a millionaire. It might just take you more than 5 years, or if you just get a little more aggressive than I did, then you might be able to hit it faster. So I'll give you a quick example. So what I did is when I was 25 years old, I bought my first house for $200,000. It was $198,000, and it was a condo. I put 5% down, but what I did do, which I recommend you do if you want to do this method, is get your real estate license. It's not that hard. You just got to take a test. Because that will give you back 2.5%, 2 to 3% of the total price of the house. So if, for instance, when I put 5% down on my first house at $198,000, I really only had to put down $10,000, and then I got half of that back from being a real estate agent, or at least having my real estate license. I wasn't never really an agent, but so you do that, and that was in 1997. And then from there, what I did is I lived in that house. It was like it was just where I needed to live. So I had 2 roommates and they paid rent. So my buddy Nate paid rent in one room, and the other buddy lived in the loft and he paid rent. So I easily covered my mortgage for what I would have paid in rent, and I got to own. And so then after living there for about 3 years, I got married. My wife and I decided we're not going to live in this place anymore. It's, let's move towards the coast. And we kept the place. We rented it out completely and was earning over the amount in rent of what I had to pay in the mortgage, which was great. So it's a little bit of cash flow there. Then we found a place by the coast for $529,000. I said I need 10% down at least to do this. So I went back, I had some money saved, just a little bit, but then I went back and did a second mortgage on the house that I did the 5% down on. and I pulled out about 500. And at that point, that property had appreciated to about 350,000. So it had gone up in 3 years. It jumped up. And part of this strategy is you don't go out and buy like the best house, right? Like I bought a humble 3-bedroom little condo that was kind of beat up a little bit. And so we fixed it up, me and my buddies, and made it nice, got new carpet, painted, and turned something that was kind of ugly in a deal into something that was like nicer. And so you kind of got to go out there, and you don't buy at the top, the nicest condo in the whole complex. You just look for the deal, right? You look for the one that's the lower priced, a little bit lower, a little undervalued, and then you try to get that. They say you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. So you got to look for those deals. And so then we did find a place by the beach for $529, which was about 5 blocks from the ocean, which we were like, this is a steal, because it was a little bit run down again, needed work. And I knew, when you're young, you can paint, do whatever. You can go on YouTube now and get all kinds of ideas on how to do stuff pretty easily, do it yourself, right? And so I bought that one at $529, but I pulled a second mortgage out on the previous house. So I just got like a HELOC at the time, which we now have HELOC, so you can do this. And was able to put almost $53,000 down on the new place. So I did 10% down, got 3% of that back. So it really was like 7% down. And then lived in that house for a few years. It was like, I just stayed in it. And so I had a little more equity in that house because the appreciation went up fast. We did new tile. We did we painted the whole house. We completely remodeled the inside of it, made it look nice, new kitchen tile, knocked out like a whole section of the kitchen to make it open, like a lot more open. It was a little dated. And then that house appraised for much more. So after a few years of having that house, we were able to buy kind of like our dream house. It was like a stepping stone. So the first house was really cheap, lived there for a little bit with some roommates. Second house with the wife, lived there for a little bit, decided, we're gonna have some kids. Let's get a bigger place, and found our dream house. And at that point, the sellers had already bought their dream house. And so they slashed the price because they were like, we're already closed. We don't want to have both mortgages. So we were able to get that one at a deal. And that one was $1.6 million. And we took a huge leap, but we were making a ton of money because it's the mortgage boom, and I could afford it. But so the second house that we had was by the beach. I was able to rent that one out, cover the mortgage, and then the new one that we bought was for 1.6. And that one, I wish I could have I didn't have to rent out the second one because it was a beach house. It would have been rad to own both. But sometimes you need the cash flow, right? You got to pay for the mortgage if you can't afford to just not. And then the 1.6, that one appreciated over time. And especially because we did get it a deal, the house next door to us was a model match, and that one appraised. And then we actually, after a few years, 5 in total, that house appraised for $2.2 million. And so if you take the total, which was minus the debt that I had on the house, it's about $1 million in net equity on all 3 properties. So that's how I did it. I could, we're going to put some numbers up there. Johnny's going to put up some numbers so that we can show you exactly what the numbers and the math was to get there. But really, if you hold on to your money and you hold it into a savings account, it doesn't do anything for you. It's like just wait. It stays there, but it doesn't appreciate. And if you haven't thought about appreciation's huge, because if you look at, you always hear from your parents or from someone, that's older like me that might say, do you remember having, when you would go buy ice cream and it was 25 cents and now it's like $2 for like thrifty ice cream? Or if you, just the prices of different things go up. And that's because inflation, it's 100% here, even though it's a low lately. But if you look at a 50-year map of housing prices, you'll see, the price down here, and then after 50 years, you're up here. You definitely have a little dip, along the way. But, when you get to when you keep going, it's because the price of commodities and like the dollar is definitely losing value every year, and that's unfortunate, obviously, because that's just how our monetary system works. But If you have your money sitting in a savings account, you're going to feel the effect of it, like of goods costing more, but your savings is just sort of staying stagnant. So you're really not, the money's actually getting eaten away slowly. Whereas if you have it in a fixed price asset, that's something that would appreciate. I mean, automobiles aren't good unless you have a classic, right? But like, put your money in IRAs and things like that and stock market. But if you put it into homes, generally, especially if you get a deal in the beginning, you work on them, you improve the property yourself, put a little sweat equity into it, you're going to have the value increase. And then that combined with inflation will make you a millionaire. That's how you become a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, and I heard too, when I was in high school, my econ teacher said, if your money's not making money, then you're losing money.
Right.
Because inflation.
If your money's not making money, you're losing money.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then, so how much do you think just doing little renovations added to the value of the home? Do you think it added?
I think a ton. Yeah.
It's like you did like a DIY. You just said, "Hey guys."
We did. I mean, we hired someone that I didn't know how to cut tile, so we found a deal, someone that we knew that did tile, and they would do it on the weekends, and they would, there wasn't like, one of my rules is I always like to get 3 bids for everything, so you don't get screwed over by the one bid that you never knew. Maybe the one bid's good, but check with another one, and then make sure that the other one's good too. So. Definitely, I would say a lot of the equity was gained by appreciation, but it was enhanced by making the properties nicer. Because what happens is when an appraiser goes and appraises your house, they'll look at other comparables and they'll see, like, for instance, whatever, they say they appraised the house 4 doors down. That one was updated. So they give you, on your appraisal, they give you a credit for having a similar property. Or if yours is updated and theirs is not, you get a deduction on the price or an improvement. So it's certainly very helpful if you can do that little work. Just a little elbow grease, right?
Yeah.
Sweat equity. But this was just 3 homes. Like, I mean, if you did in 5 years, you could do 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, some people do it, but the key also is getting your license, because then you have access to see the deals when they come up yourself. You also, obviously get the 3% back or 2.5%, depending on what the listing agent's going to give you, or the seller. Paying rent also. I mean, I think there's a couple people out there saying don't buy a house. Yeah, don't go out and buy your dream house first, but buy like a house that you're willing to live in for a little bit and rent. And especially if you're young, you have roommates and things like that. You can rent out those rooms, and like, let's say you rent it out for $500 a room, maybe more, and then probably a lot more, right? I mean, mine at $200,000 is like $500 was nothing. I mean, that helped, but because my first mortgage payment was like $1,500 a month, something like that. It was crazy, but yeah, I mean, like, room rents are crazy now. So just go find a condo, do an FHA loan on it if you can, or do, if you're self-employed, do 10% down with one of our bank statement programs. And this is doable, but it's just, if you don't do it, you'll see house prices slowly go up and you'll be like, damn, I should have done it. But a lot of people don't think they can put down, enough money to get their first house. But you think about it, you got to put down for a deposit when you rent. You got to put some money down. It's not a ton. Maybe it's 1 or 2% of the price of the house, but you get your license, so that's 3% plus the 1 to 2 that you would have to put into a deposit anyway. Maybe get your friends' deposits if they're gonna, stay with you too, and then do it. Yeah, so you just got to get out there and do it. But I am a big believer in this, putting in a dream board, making something that you want. Even write down an address or a street that you want to have a place on. Write it on a board. Write down exactly what you want. And then work your way to get there. You can't just visualize it and it happens, but you certainly can. If you have a target and you put it up on the board and you just work towards that, then, that's certainly achievable.
Yeah, I've got a buddy who's 27. He's about to buy like a beachfront property because he got kind of like a townhome. Mm-hmm. He bought a townhome, did the same thing, renovated it. The price went sky high. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, it's a buyer's market right now. There's this place by the beach for X amount. He was like, I'm just going to rent out this place.
Yep.
You know, maybe pull some equity out, buy this. And I mean,
you can do all this and then do home flipping on the side too. So you can have the ones that you want to keep. Then you have the ones that you are like, I'm just going to flip this one. Also, you might just put it up to flip, and then if you don't get the right price, you might be like, well, find out what I could rent it for, and then you just say, I'll just keep that one up, do a little equity, second mortgage on it, or refi and pull a little cash out. But and
this is in addition to what you're already making. So, you know, you're paying less on rent, you have your main job, and then, you know, just with the prices of homes going up, and then if you renovate it, so it's like putting steroids, you know, it's like going to the gym, working out, not taking any supplements, you'll grow.
Right.
But if you go to the gym and you say, all right, I'm going to take my protein at this time, I'm going to do this at this time, you're just going to...
And it's all about just educating and awareness and knowing, right, that you can do that. Like, if you didn't know that you could do that, then you would just cruise along and be fine. Just like most people, and they're just, you know, getting rent and they're happy with, you know, paying rent and living in a cool house, right? But if you don't really care that much about the first place that you get, as far as like being, you know, the cool guy with the cool girl with the cool house, like, just live in a place, right? Like live in a house that you can collect some rent, you know, and get a good location, and then that's where you start. And you could do, there's programs with like 0 down, but most people can't really find or qualify for those, but there's a lot with 3.5% with FHA, 5% down. We have those products with 5% down, but the bank statement one is 10. So you might have to save a little bit more if you are self-employed and don't have, you know, a W-2 job where you can qualify for FHA or Fannie Freddie, you know.
Yeah.
And FHA, you can get a bunch of co-borrowers too, right?
Yeah.
You could.
I don't know if you want to go in with a bunch of friends, but...
You want them paying the mortgage, not a part of the mortgage.
Yeah, but even if like a family member or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my buddy does that exact same thing, and right now he's pulling out like 150 out of it or something from the time he bought.
Nice.
And has all his buddies renting it, and they're going to stay there, and then he's going to go get the next place.
Think about how hard it is to save $150,000.
Very hard.
But if you did this and you put in, it's called leverage. It's like, you know, you can't rip out this, you know, crazy nail out of a wood, but if you have a hammer with leverage, my kid could do it, you know. It's like, so leverage is the same way. You know, by using leverage, you can create wealth. And that's what I think people don't understand. So if you don't understand leverage, Google it, read about it as far as financial leverage, you know, and use a mortgage to be able to get yourself appreciate, because your appreciation's off of the total home value, right? So you're able to put like, say 5% down, you get the appreciation on the total home value, even though you're using a mortgage for the majority of that.
Yeah, you don't need to be putting down as much when it comes to appreciation like that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I always thought about it. I pay $1,100 a month for rent. Yeah, I am right by the beach and in a killer spot.
Yeah, so you pay let's say you pay $1,200 a month. You have 2 roommates paying $700 a month. What is that? You know, do that math. It's what, $2,600?
Yeah, right? That's more than doable, I would say.
Yeah,
definitely.
And that could pay a mortgage, you know, depending on
location.
Yeah, or the rate that you get, and so.
Which FHA is pretty low and doable, I would think, for something just like that.
Yeah.
They're not $200,000 anymore.
No, not here in San Diego. That was a steal. Yeah, I ended up selling that place for $476 or $490 or something like that. Crazy. So
that's awesome.
I made a ton of money on that house, luckily, and I'd lived there for a couple of years, so I think I was able to not have to pay the capital gains. Because I think the laws were different then. But anyway, it's certainly doable, and I think if you want it, it's not like you're going to be able to then, with your millionaire status, be able to, like, you know, have tons of cash laying around like the rock stars do. But at least you could call yourself a millionaire, you know, on equity.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you put away your stuff, your other money in 401ks and IRAs, that's always good too, to save for retirement. But don't stick it under your mattress or don't put it in the bank. It's not going to do anything for you there. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you guys are looking for more content like this, we have a FundLoans YouTube channel where we give away more tips, secrets, and origination ideas. You can also email us at info@fundloans.com. And if you've made it this far, I think it's safe to say you like our content. So please subscribe, share, and send us your scenarios. Let's fund loans together.